I will take the ace that I intended to hit, and I hit my line perfectly, and it went, I was running it for the ace, and it went in. I would take that shot over the lucky accidental shot any day because that doesn't mean that much. I think that it should be a combination of tour points and, the World Championship. You have people tour during the year, just kind of how F1 is. Sorry guys, me and both
I
F1
love
fans,
this
that's what
idea.
keeps coming up.
I love
But
it.
you have people tour and they get points, and only the top 20, highest points are invited to the World Championship, and it's at the end of the season.
The National Tour needs to go away, in my opinion. I think the Disc Golf Pro Tour can take over very well. I think it's confusing for new players and corporate sponsors. Which tour do we care about? All of those things. So for those reasons, yeah, the Disc Golf Pro Tour should take over. And if they can't take over a certain event, oh well, it becomes an A tier. Welcome in, everyone, to the Chain Clankers Disc Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Quentin Ferris, here, joined, as always, by Horacio Gonzalez. We've got a fantastic episode for you guys today. Debate night is back. Ladies and gentlemen, we did a debate episode a little bit ago now. It was a couple months ago, and we actually got a really good review from that. A lot of people liked it. People have been asking for it again. So we are back for part 2 on today's episode. We've got 3 incredible debates, and if we have time, we might even get to a bonus debate. But before we get into them, let's go ahead and bring on our co-host, Horacio Gonzalez. How are we doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm excited. Get your blood flowing. I know for you guys that don't know, Quentin did debate in high school, so it's very easy to get him going, get the blood flow going through his veins. So some of these are going to be exciting. Get to see what he says, and hopefully you guys can see who you guys agree with. Let us know if you guys agree with him or with me on some of these topics. A couple of these, we understand, but for the purposes of debating, we kind of just want one of us is playing devil's advocate, even though we might agree or not, but kind of just to see both sides to it of what people might see. And, also just to bring to some of these topics, it's stuff that people talk about that you hear at your local league nights and stuff. But yeah, just to try to bring these topics to hear what you guys think about them. But yeah, how was your weekend?
Sad, pain-filled, not a good time. That is how my weekend went. If you are paying attention, you know that we're from Kansas, Wichita, Kansas, and being in Kansas, we are, at least I am. Horatio has no soul, therefore does not care. Are big time Chiefs fans. And all I feel is pain and suffering from the Chiefs so far in 2021. So good time. I have outlawed myself from being able to play disc golf on Sundays because every time I play on a Sunday, the Chiefs somehow find a way to lose. So not going to be doing that here anytime soon, but it's been pretty good. Been working on a couple of things in my game recently. I've definitely been trying to not throw as hard and just really focus on the mechanics. Things have been working out pretty well for that. So definitely going to continue to try to do that and just continuing to hone in that putting, man. I'll tell you what, if you want to get better at disc golf, putting in your backyard or just before or after your round is so critical. Definitely something you want to continue to do. I've seen my putts skyrocket from where they were just a couple months ago. So super glad I've been doing that, and definitely something I'm going to continue to be doing. Yeah. And so, Horatio, how was your week?
It was good. I did not play. I don't remember if I played Saturday, but today we got around it and we got to go, play that wooded course that is kind of close to you. We went out and played that. It was fun. I know last time we went, my buddy was sick and you hadn't played in a while, so we just played best shot. And today we did kind of a doubles kind of thing also. And that course is pretty tough, so it makes it more fun. I enjoyed it. I like going. It's a bit of a drive for me, but I like going out to that course because it's so tough. The course that's by my house is a lot of fun, and it's definitely not easy, but I'm getting, I think, really used to the same shots. And I'm getting used to the shots that are needed there, but it's completely different from that course that we went and played today, which is completely wooded. You absolutely have to hit your line. It's not like these other courses where it's open and then get around a certain obstacle or something and you can miss your line and be fine. This course, like all wooded courses, you have to hit that line. And so it makes you really hone in and focus and slow down. And really, I think disc choice is a lot more important. And so I really enjoyed that and just the challenge of it. But I think we did a lot better today than we did last week for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely agree. Like I was kind of saying, definitely kind of working on just slowing down, being smooth with it. And that's a course where you can't be all herky jerky, because once you get herky jerky and try to muscle things, that's typically when it goes bad for you. And, it's just multiplied when you're on a wooded course. So, yeah, definitely fun playing a wooded course. But let's get into what everyone is here for, the debates on today's episode. Horatio, I do appreciate the intro, but, it wasn't just high school. We went to the national debate tournament in college. So, I feel like I'm just going to start at one point I know on one of these, I'm going to lose it. And I'm just going to start talking super fast and just trying to go in after it. But yeah, why don't you explain the first debate that we got going?
Yeah, so the first one is more kind of for league nights and divisions, or I think it's more towards league nights. It was a submission from one of you guys, and it's caps for certain divisions. Could you break it down exactly what the submission was from the fan?
Yeah. So shout out to Sampner DG. He said that AM division caps are too high. Rec should cap at about 800 for your rating, and intermediate at 900, which is a pretty interesting thought there because it is significantly higher right now. And so therefore, if you were an 800 or higher, you would be in intermediate. And if you were under 800, you would be in rec. So 799 and less, you would be in rec, where 800 to 900, you would be in intermediate. And after 900, you would be into advanced or something along those lines, as I think kind of how he was breaking it down. And I agree with that. I do think that the rec division being that 800 or less, so 799 or less, is better, because that truly in my mind is recreational disc golf. When you get over that 800 player rating, because we even played in a tournament like years ago when we first got started, and I like did not put together 2 rounds and finished at like 814, and like was still kind of sort of in the mix. And like, 814 is such a bad rating. Like, I've not had a rating that low in quite a while. Obviously I've been getting better, but it's one of those things where if you're over that 800 mark, I do kind of see it. You are playing disc golf pretty regularly. It's going to be pretty difficult for a brand new player, a true recreational player, somebody who goes out maybe just because their other buddies are going out, to be over 800 rated disc golf like that. Like, it is actually pretty difficult to do. So I do agree with this, that if you lower the caps, I also think it gives more opportunity to more people to have more fun, if that makes sense. Because when you lower those limits, you don't have the, I don't know, the 875 rated rec player who's eating up the rec division. And so you, who are at like 790 or whatever, you have got no chance, or you don't have a rating and you've got no chance. So like, I think that it's a good idea. Maybe 800 is a little too low, maybe more something like 825, 815, 810, something like that wouldn't be that bad. But yeah, I do agree with this one. I think that if you kind of change the cap, kind of lower it a little bit, I think the rec division, especially in our town, is not a true rec division. Our rec division is an intermediate division. There are people who should not be in rec playing in rec. And that's just kind of how it is here. I imagine that's how it is in a bunch of other places. So the newer guys and gals who come in who want to play rec literally have no chance and just get beat down. Like, I went to a flex single round league on Saturday a couple weeks ago, and I think the winning score in rec shot 2 down, and the worst score in rec shot 21 up. Like, that should not be the same division. I'm sorry. It just simply should not be the same division. And in my mind, you discourage those people who are shooting the plus 21, shooting plus 10, shooting plus 5 from coming out. Because if the winner is consistently going to be -2, -3, -5, -6, I've seen rec winning scores of -13. Like, that is not going to encourage more people to come out. And if I was a rec player, I mean, literally, I will do this sometimes for doubles. If I see that the pins are in shorts and we're going from the short tee pads, I'm not necessarily interested in going and wasting $5 or $6 knowing that I'm going to come in like sixth place because it's at shorts and all you have to do is get lucky a little bit and it's going to be fine. So I agree with this for the most part, maybe a little bit of changes, but overall, I think I do agree with this.
Yeah, I think those are really good points, and I definitely see what you're saying about rec players getting discouraged. I know I've talked about this before, and I've seen a difference in our league nights. A lot of players not coming back to league night because they feel like they absolutely have no chance. And I think it goes towards kind of the same into tournaments. They'll play, they'll join rec because for a lot of players, that's the only division that they can join, or like that they're comfortable joining is rec. It's the lowest one. Um, and even though they might not be as confident yet, or they don't think that they can compete, that's the division that they have to play in. They have to pay money and they have to compete in whether they are ready or not. But they want to get that tournament experience. But there are those players who have been playing, for years, and they're decent players, but they're still playing in rec. And so this one, unfortunately, we're here to debate, but I also kind of agree. I think that there should either be a novice division for newer players, or I think that I don't know. I've said in the past, and I don't think ratings really work all that great for the M side. I think for the pro side, they give you a good standing of what you compare to your other players on the pro tour. But on the M side, I feel like results and you'll see intermediate and advanced. And for the most part, they'll look identical. Um, Intermediate might have shot, the winner might have shot, let's say, -12, and advanced shot -11. And the spread is almost about the same. And as you get down in the scores, they get higher for the intermediate players. But for the most part, you could put them side by side and they'd be pretty close because people are going off of ratings. Um, and it doesn't really differentiate players that much. I wish, there was a different way to come up with what division players should be playing in. And I think it would be really cool. Just for example, I think, if you did some kind of if there was a way to have players do some kind of like camp or something, and you write down kind of like BMI, you take body mass index or whatever, you take someone's, what's the farthest you can throw, okay, out of 30 shots from 10, 10, 15, and 30, how many of those shots are you going to make? Let's say 50 shots. What's your percentage from circle one? How far can you throw? And if we wanted to throw another one in there, I guess, can you throw sidearm and based off of those shots, come up with a rating or a score. And your Eagle McMahon, who is sometimes 100% from circle one, he can throw 600 plus if he wants to, and he can throw an amazing, you're like 98, 99 percentile player, as opposed to if you have a new player who can only throw backhand barely, can maybe is 20% from circle one, and the farthest they can throw is about 250. Okay, so they're in your like 20 to 25 percentile, and that's your rec player. And then you move up along that chart and you have someone like, let's say, me or you, who are maybe, I don't know, 30 to 40% from circle one. We can throw just for example, we can throw.
I am not 30 to 40% from circle one. I would say I'm easily 70%
from circle one.
Yeah.
That's from like 33.
Yeah.
Including 33 feet.
I would say.
Okay. So let's say
more times than not, I'm 60 to 70% from 25 out.
Okay. So a player like us, so let's say, 60 to 65% from circle one, you can throw 350 to 400, and you can either throw a backhand or a forearm comfortably, or you can throw both. I feel like that would be, in like the 50 to 60 percentile, which then you would be more in that advanced to intermediate bracket. And I feel like that would be a way to better spread out players more off of skill than based off of ratings that tournaments that you did, because you take someone like me who I've played in maybe 2 tournaments where I received a rating from, and I haven't played in a tournament to get a rating since then. If I went off of that rating, I should go, right to rec, which I would still probably play rec, but I'm not playing at that skill level anymore. And yes, I would get a new rating, but then even then, it wouldn't be accurate. I don't know. I feel like there should be a better way to measure people's skills than tournament ratings.
Yeah, I mean, the rating system in general is kind of broke. There definitely is a better way to do it, but I did pull up because I know there's going to be somebody in the comments who's like, oh, literally look at the PDGA site and what it says for ratings. My phone's at 1%, so it's probably going to die halfway through this, but it says novice is for anyone 850 or less, rec is for 900 or less, intermediate 935 or less, and advanced is for anyone above 935. So when I read that, I'm saying, okay, so I have to be less than 850 to be in the novice division. So I think it then becomes an issue of why are tournaments not offering a novice division? And
You hardly see it.
I think it's because there's a stigmatism that if you offer a novice division, that your tournament is lesser. It is not as good. But I really think if you saw a rec and a novice division, I truly believe more people would show out and would come, because who is under 850, theoretically, because I don't have a PDGA rating. Now, I guess you then bring in, well, what about the guys and gals who don't have PDGA ratings? I would say you at that, it's on you. Make your best judgment call, right? But let's say, for example, I am somebody who has a rating and it's 830. I can play in novice and compete in novice and have a much better time than having to go against because I think it said 900 against an 899 guy who's going to wipe the floor with me. And the same thing then goes to intermediate and up and up. So yeah, I think you could honestly even lower that to 830 and less for novice and actually offering novice division. And then, 831 to 900 is rec. And then 900 to 949 is intermediate. And if you're above 949, 950, you're in advanced. That's how I think it should be broken down. Let's move on. I think this was a good discussion. Let's move on to our next one, our next debate. And again, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts. Comment down below. Hit us up on Instagram. Let us know who you think won tonight's debate night. I know the first one was kind of a wash. We kind of both agreed there, but had different ways of getting there. So let us know. Did you like Horacio's idea for the maybe BMI-ish system, or did you like mine for changing how ratings are? Let us know. Let's get to the second one. This one also came from a fan. I want to make sure, again, I'm at 1%, so I really hope I can find it real quick. This was another fan submission, and this comes from Justin's_disc golf. It says, should the National Tour stop and the DGPT take over all tournaments? If you're wondering what those two are, the National Tour is ran by the PDGA. The DDO is on the National Tour. The last tournament that just happened, the Music City Fling, I think is what it's called, is on the National Tour. There's a couple of I think there was only like 5 tournaments on the National Tour this year. And the Disc Golf Pro Tour kind of runs all the others. So I agree. The Disc Golf Pro Tour should absorb the National Tour, and the National Tour should go away and die. I have multiple reasons for that. The first one is the PDGA cannot run a good tournament to save their life. They are terrible when it comes to holding pro events. Are they good for AMs, C tiers, those kinds of things? Sure. But when it comes to running elite level events, they are worthless in my eyes. The reason I say that is because, first off, I think Worlds is a great example. You're telling me Brody Smith had to chalk up $1,000 for there to be a spot for the players to warm up their drives? The PDGA couldn't do that? You're kidding me, right? And then Exhibit 2 is the fact that when the women had their U.S. championship, they had to go to, correct me if I'm wrong, like 3 courses over 3 or 4 days, something really crazy like that. Like it was a new course every day. It was impossible to really even kind of follow and get your bearings on those courses. And I can't confirm this, but I have heard rumors that even at this Music City Fling, they like had the regular baskets for the men, and then they had marksman baskets for the women to practice on, which if that's true, that's pretty crappy. I really think the DGPT is so by and far better because they have actual standards when it comes to courses. They have a certain precedent for how they run things. I think Jeff Springs has been incredible for disc golf, and the way that they hold their events is so much at a higher level than the national tour. Another example is, and of course, we're not on the tour, so these are things that we're being told and hearing from guys and gals, is that the pro tour will periodically send out surveys. Hey, how is this tournament? What can we improve on? What did we do good? Those kinds of things. Take the feedback and actually implement the feedback. The national tour and the PDGA literally does not care. So I think I've covered my bases with PDGA bad for the elite pro side, right? Cool. Now you move to the other side of, can the Disc Golf Pro Tour theoretically take on these extra 5 events? I think the answer is a pretty easy yes. They're already going there. The Disc Golf Pro Tour is, I think they have the resources to be able to do it. And if a course does not meet their specific qualifications for it to be on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, then it's an A tier. And sorry that this prestigious tournament or some tournament that mattered a lot 20 years ago now is just an A tier. I mean, to me, that doesn't matter because disc golf back then was so much different. Sure, there can be prestige and honor to whatever tournament, wherever, but we are entering a new era of disc golf, a actual professional era of disc golf. We are entering an era where things are being streamlined more, and the Disc Golf Pro Tour is critical to that. The National Tour only submarines the Pro Tour because to someone who's just getting into the game, right? We look at golf, for example. They have the PGA Tour. That is where the pros play. And then I don't even know what it's called, but they have another tour. That's where like the not pros play that are trying to get to the PGA Tour. The national tour should go away. And if anything, they can become the Silver Series events where maybe the big time pros like Paul and Ricky and those guys don't go to those events. And it's more for the other guys to improve on their skills and try to continue to climb up that ladder. The national tour needs to go away, in my opinion. I think the Disc Golf Pro Tour can take over very well. I think it's confusing for new players and corporate sponsors. Which tour do we care about? All those things. So for those reasons, yeah, the Disc Golf Pro Tour should take over. And if they can't take over a certain event, oh well, it becomes an A tier.
On this one, I definitely don't agree because it's normal in other sports to have, just one company where they run every single, they run the league. NBA, it's NBA. That's what we know as. Basketball, that's the league they play in is NBA. Football, NFL, that's the league. There's AFL or something like that, but that's for lower players or something. I don't know. But most sport has one league that runs everything, kind of like a monopoly. And I think that's great and all, but I think that there is something good to have competition. And a lot of people some people don't agree with PDGA touring events and they think that they could be run better. But the only reason, I guess not the only reason, but one of the reasons why they think that they're not run well or they're not great is because they have something to compare it to. They have the Disc Golf Pro Tour who runs amazing events. They do a great job. Payouts are incredible. And, they do seems like they put more. There's Jeff Springs on the ground and they put on a good show. But I think if they absorb the PDGA events, the national tour, I think you would lose some of that. And also then you wouldn't really have a standard. And then Disc Golf Pro Tour might lose some of that quality of events that they're able to put on because they're on taking on more and they're responsible for more. But also with that, I think that they wouldn't be able to grow because not only are they now trying to compete, but they're a standard to compare themselves to, and they are more worried about running the entire thing, and they're their team and their efforts are split up in between more events than, just focusing on the ones that they have. And then, if the PDGA doesn't want to listen to the folks and take feedback and improve on their events, then that's kind of their fault. But, in people's eyes, they're going to see the Disc Golf Pro Tour as the better league, or where people want to go. And I don't think that Disc Golf Pro Tour or players will be hurt by that. We saw the payouts for Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship this year. It's 30,000 for first place for FPO and MPO. They're not affected by PDGA, putting on bad events. They're doing their thing, and they're showing that they are doing things better. And hopefully, this lights a fire under PDGA, and it makes them want to put on better events and do better payouts and do better prizes and just do better for the players, because every single player that is benefiting from Disc Golf Pro Tour and from the PDGA events are PDGA players. They don't have a choice of, where their PDGA money goes to, but they do have to play in these events. So, they can at least get the PDGA to put on better events.
So a couple of points that I have from there is that I don't think you're even remotely correct with there's no impact by bad PDGA events. There's absolutely an impact, because the majors are ran by the PDGA. And so I absolutely think there's an impact to a Paige Pierce, Katrina Allen, Haley King, Kristen Tatar for a bad world championship.
There's no impact on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. There's not an impact on the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
So
not on the players.
So a bad PDGA event has no
on
impact
the players.
Hold on. Sorry. So a bad ran tournament by the PDGA does not affect the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
No, they're their own thing. They're in their lane. They're not worried about what PDGA is doing in their events. They're worried about what they're doing. Does it affect the players? Yes. So the players should be upset, but I don't think it's the Disc Golf Pro Tour's problem.
I think
take on their,
I think okay, let me start here. I think it doesn't make sense to have two tours. It makes no sense. What are these guys and gals even fighting for at the end of the day? What matters more, the National Tour or the Disc Golf Pro Tour? The Pro Tour matters more than the National Tour, in my opinion, and I think everyone else's opinion. So I think it should be, if you're in the Pro Tour, you cannot play the National Tour. If you're in the National Tour, you can't play the Pro Tour. You have to stick to your lane, and you can't be going back and forth. That's like an F1 driver. That's like Max Verstappen going and racing in F2 and dominating, and then going back to F1 when it's an F1 weekend. Like, it makes no sense. And what other sport can you go to a different tour? Or that would be like another example. Patrick Mahomes goes to the CFL and dominates and wins a Super Bowl, and then comes back to the NFL on Sunday and wins the game. Like, none of that makes any sense. Like, that's silly.
I don't think it's like that, because the Disc Golf Pro Tour, they have to go by PDGA rules. Like, they're sanctioned, PDGA sanctioned event. They have to follow all the rules and guidelines to run a tournament per PDGA rules. So it's, even though they're different tours and different events, the criteria and the requirements are the same. So it's not going to a different division. It's just, it ran by different people.
But I think that's the confusing part. If they're ran by two different people doesn't make sense to the average consumer. And I feel like what matters at the end of the day, like, in your opinion, if we are sitting here in a couple weeks after the Pro Tour Championship and we're like, hey, who was the player of the year? What makes them the player of the year? Is it their performance at the National Tour and the majors? Is it their performance at the Disc Golf Pro Tour? Like what is it? I think it's so much more difficult and cloudy to make decisions like that, to bring in sponsors, because like, for me, like, let's say I'm Nike, right? And I want to sponsor either the Pro Tour or the National Tour. I don't know what to do. What tour actually matters? Like, I'm confused by what's going on. And so because I'm confused, Shark Tank, I'm out. There's no reason for me to get involved until we have clarity. And I think this year has proven the PDGA does not care about running elite level events, and they're not going to run well-ran elite level events. I think it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, 5 more tournaments is not going to be spreading the Disc Golf Pro too thin at all. And again, like I said, the fallback to that is if it does not meet their guidelines for what they can do, then it's just an A tier. It's not a part of the tour. So I think that's kind of how you get out of that. One other thing I did want to mention here is you talked a little bit about how like other sports have a monopoly on like the competition and stuff like that, like, MLB, NBA, all that stuff. I think that just makes sense. It doesn't make sense to have two different MLB leagues or baseball leagues going at the same time. It doesn't make sense for the NFL and another competing football trying to go, the XFL, for example. It doesn't make sense for those things to be going on at the same time. So I, at the end of the day, am confused by the national tour, and I think it can be incorporated by the pro tour pretty easily. And if it can't, then it just becomes A tier. And I think the PDGA needs to stick to what it's best at, and it's working with the community, getting AMs into the game, that kind of thing. And just one final thing I'll say here is when you said, they have to follow the PDGA rules. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of things where in disc golf, it's pretty cut and dry. Like the rules are what the rules are. You know what I'm saying? You have to be on the tee pad when you throw. You can't, do a foot fault when you putt, those kinds of things, right? So I don't know why in a world, because I think a good example here is I can't think of the tournament right now. The one where Calvin and Ricky were co-champions at, because it got rained out on the final round when Kyle Klein was absolutely about to win that. The PDGA is like, nope, you guys can't play on Monday. But all the players were like, yeah, we'll play on Monday. It's cool. So I think the Pro Tour needs at some point to have the ability to almost make some of their own rules to allow them to finish that out. Like they are the tour. They should be able to dictate how things go on the tour. The game of disc golf is the same. I think it's the auxiliary pieces that can be tinkered with that would make it even better.
Now, I don't agree with that for sure. There's got to be rules set in place. Once you start doing that, once you start letting, Pro Tour, whoever, start dictating their own rules, kind of, when you're trying to make a sport more legitimate in people's eyes and less confusing, that is the worst thing you can do, is having different tours changing up rules to tailor to their events. If the rules say that, there's storm or whatever, and it must be finished at this point, then everybody has to follow that, ifs, ands, or buts. Otherwise, it just becomes muddy water. And then people are like, well, what the heck? They're just changing up the rules as they see fit when it's convenient. And that's just confusing for everybody. I think even though it's unfortunate, it sucks for Kyle Klein and, other players in those situations. That's the rules, and that's what they signed up. When you become a PDGA member, you agree to play by those rules. And I think to be on Pro Tour, you have to pass a test to be like a ref. And so you're agreeing, to go by the PDGA Bible and follow all those rules. So that's unfortunately, I think that there should be one thing I do agree with is that, PDGA running events is weird. I think PDGA should be their own thing. They sanction tournaments, but whoever runs the tour should be their own entity. It should have no involvement from the PDGA, but they're the tour. They are not, PDGA, I guess, event, which is kind of what it seems like right now. Events are being run by the PDGA.
One last thing I want to talk through here on this point is you're a soccer guy, so I think this will make a little bit of sense. What is the most important soccer league out there? Like if you just had to think of one, what's the most important soccer league?
Probably the European.
Which one? I feel like there's 10.
There's probably, but I don't watch sports. I don't know.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you, and I'm gonna be wrong.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. There's multiple, right? So then for me, it comes to the point of what's the best basketball league?
NBA.
What's the best baseball league?
The MLB.
What's the best football league?
But those are the only leagues.
No, there's not.
In people's eyes, those are the only leagues. In soccer, you have, the top highest paid players in the world play in different leagues. There's the European league, there's the Spanish league, there's the Italian league. They have their own leagues that they play in, and there's their own thing, and it works fine. They all follow, the FIFA rules, the FIFA guidelines. They're ran by different leagues, but they follow the same rules, but they're not in the same leagues. That's a
It's
great example. Thank you.
No, that's such a bad example. You don't know what the most important soccer league is. I don't know what the most important soccer league is. No one knows what the most important soccer league is. Like that would be
It's
like Macbeth plays on the national tour, Wysocki plays on the pro tour, and Eagle plays on the Clankers tour. Like
but
what tour matters at that point? No tour
the
matters.
But you can't compare that because the only reason that they're able to do that is because soccer is the most popular sport in the world. There's way too many players, way too much competition. Disc golf, you can't do that. You have 90% of the best players in the world playing in the United States.
Exactly, which I think
Soccer,
feeds
you
into
can't
the
you can't
point.
split that up into.
It feeds into the point of that's why there needs to be one tour. If soccer is so popular, like you're saying, it's the most popular sport in the world. Yes, they can have multiple tours, be successful because the people, it's fine. But disc golf is not that popular enough to be able to have two tours and it make any sense. Because at the end of the day, what is the difference? Like, what is the point of winning the National Tour Series? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no point. Like, I don't understand why it matters. Let the disc golf pro tour take it and let it become better, or incorporate it, like I said, into the silver series events. And then that's your kind of sub tour within the tour. Like it, to me, that's just some stuff that makes perfect sense. I think the national tour is just not it, Chief.
Yep. Yep. And I would say it is very confusing. And that's one thing that I don't like about the different tours and stuff. Like you have the person that was announced the world champion, Conor McGrath. Haven't really
Hold on, hold
seen
on,
him
hold on,
much
hold on. I'm
since,
sorry, I'm
and
sorry,
events
I'm
were
sorry, I'm
finishing.
sorry. What did you say his name was?
Is it James Conrad?
I swore I heard Conor McBride or something crazy like that. So
Conor
I want to
McGrath.
give the world champ some respect because I'm about to talk about him in a sec.
Yeah, so you had the world champion James Conrad, who I haven't really seen much of him since, which I think world championship should be at the very end of the season. And
Agreed.
then they announced, oh, congrats on the, most disc golf pro tour points, and I think it was Ricky Wysocki, like he was the number one in points. And then we still have the disc golf pro tour championship coming up, which is 30,000 purse of the year. So like that's a pretty huge, championship, and not really going to count USDGC because that's its own thing. But yeah, those three, for example, world championship, highest points of the tour, and then disc golf pro tour championship. So confusing. One of them is in the middle of the season or kind of towards the end. And it's just a tournament. Like there's nothing really to make it a world championship other than people can come and they say this is the world championship. That's what they call it. We have the Music City Open, you have the DDO at the world championship, and either of those could be the world championship based off of their things. I think that it should be a combination of tour points and the world championship. You have people tour during the year, just kind of how F1 is. Sorry guys, me and both
I
F1
love
fans,
this
so that's why it keeps
idea.
coming up.
I love
But
it.
you have people tour and they get points, and only the top 20, highest points are invited to the world championship, and it's at the end of the season. So then you have the elite players, whoever played the best consistently during the season, and they play at the very end, and it's for the biggest pot, and that is the best player that season. I don't think that James Conrad was the best player this season because he won the world championship. So I think that that's broken. But
If I could shake
that's
your
what I have to
hand
sound
through the
that.
screen, I would. Like that literally makes so much sense. Yep, there we go. We're getting it done. That makes so much sense. I'm so glad you thought about that. We got to talk to Jeff Springs immediately because that makes so much sense. Like I've said it all along. Why the hell is the disc golf or world championship in like June? That makes no sense at all. Why? And you're right. Literally, it's just a group of people who say, yep, this is the special tournament. This is the world championship. Literally, like you said, this weekend's tournament. I'm not trying to say everything you just said, but I just agree so much that literally it's just, yep, this is the world championship. we're going to make it. And it's going to be like 6 rounds. So it's going to be an extra 2 rounds. That's what makes it the world championship. But a really good example, like you're saying, is James Conrad. What has James Conrad done since then? Absolutely jack squat. So and I love the F1 comparison just because we're both into F1 right now and it makes sense. Let's say the top, I don't know, what do they do? I guess 50% gets points. So you could do 50% of the field. I also think if there's like a actual like field limit size and maybe they have like qualifiers for those. Here's an interesting idea, right? For the Disc Golf Pro Tour, let's say each field is capped at 100 people. Okay. But let's say 150 sign up. The 50 lowest rated players then, or I guess it would be the, I don't know. Yeah. Let's say 125 people sign up. So it would be 50 people. So 25 people outside the cut, 25 inside the cut. They then have a 1 or 2 round qualifying session and the top, 25 get in, you get to your field size of 100. And then from there, you give 50% of players points. And if you finish outside of 50th, then you don't get a point. And then at the end of the season, like you're saying, you have a tally of points, and then you could play a world championship. And let's say it's whittled down to the top 20%. And then either it's from there, whoever wins is the winner, or you have a point multiplier on, what spot you finish there. And that makes you the world championship. That is such a good idea, Horatio. I love that. We got to send some emails.
I think that the Disc Golf Pro Tour has more validity for like a world championship than the current world championship, because Disc Golf Pro Tour, they literally like you have to qualify for the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And like if you don't win, like if you don't place in certain spots, like you don't go on to the next level, right?
Yeah, you have to be in the top 50% because I think only 16 are invited. No, it's the top 32 are invited, and then the 32 gets cut to like 16, eventually gets cut to 8, cut to 4, something like that. But the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship, like that's the reason why you get points, because you have to be inside the top 32 to be invited to it. The same would make sense for the World Championship. And why is the World Championship receiving less money than the Disc Golf Pro Tour? Like that doesn't make any sense. Wow. I think we had a breakthrough. I think we ended up not agreeing and then came to a middle point of absolute agreement. And that's what discussions and debates should be, folks. It shouldn't just be screaming at the other person, because that was really good. Now we're going to get into the screaming part of the episode. We've got one last debate for you guys.
Yeah, we got one last one, which we'll try to keep it short because we could probably debate about this one for, an entire hour. So we'll kind of just try to give our best blows and see what you guys agree with. And we'll end it on this one.
Yep.
All right. What do we have, Quinn?
So for this one, I got a little bit of smoke on this for social media. If you follow us on Instagram at Chain Clankers, and it was during the match play event recently. Eagle McMahon threw a 700-foot drive, parks the hole. And Terry Miller, I think is the commentator, says that is the shot of the year. I completely disagree with that. And one of my arguments was when commentary just throws things out like that, that is bad for the sport. You don't see every time in baseball someone makes a home run, rob and catch, like, oh, that's the play of the year. That doesn't happen. And more importantly is that it's not the shot of the year. James Conrad's throw-in at the World Championship is the shot of the year and arguably the greatest shot in disc golf of all time. And because context matters here. Context matters. He has to make this shot to even stay alive in the World Championship, which he does, that then he moves on to win the World Championship. So if he is off by even the slightest little margin, it doesn't happen. It is harder to throw something in than to just throw it and it roll up next to the pin. We can all agree with that. It is so much harder to actually put the disc in the basket than to get the disc near the basket. Eagle's shot is just a massive rip. I can't do it. You can't do it. Probably 99.9% of you listening at home cannot do what Eagle did. So
That's what makes it so good.
No, it's not. It just
makes Which shot was better?
Which
shot was better?
James Conrad's shot is better.
The actual shot.
Yes, James Conrad's is better. It takes more precision, more touch, more finesse, more skill than to
Which one takes
rip on a 700-foot drive.
Which one of the two had more luck?
I would say the drive had more luck because
More
you're just
luck?
full sending that thing, hoping that it doesn't just turn into oblivion and it just happened to roll up next to the hole. Where James Conrad's, sure, you can call it lucky, but there is a exact line. There's an exact science for it to go in there, and he hit it perfectly when it
Which
mattered most. Nothing, that shot that Eagle did is great. It is a great shot, but it doesn't matter because there's
James
no
Conrad
meaning.
threw a shot that he didn't think would go in. He threw a shot that he was praying would go in and would save him the tournament and be able to keep going. But he threw a shot, willingly, 100%, hoping it would go in, but not a shot that he would be able to do again, 1 out of 10 times. Eagle could do that shot again. He threw a
Which
shot
makes it
with
not
intention.
special, which doesn't make it the shot of the year. If you can repeat the shot of the year, it's not the shot of the year.
You take 1,000 people from 1,000 disc golfers from all over the world. How many of those are going to be
Zero.
able to make the shot that Eagle did?
Zero.
How many of them are going to be able to make the shot that James Conrad did?
Maybe a handful. Maybe. But like it doesn't matter because if they're making that shot, there's no context behind it. They're just in the field. They made the shot. There's zero pressure to make it. James, in the, like we just said, the World Championship is the most important tournament, right? Air quotes if you're listening to us, not watching on YouTube. If it's the most important tournament, that means something. Paul literally has it in the bag, locked up. It's over. You make this, you stay alive. You miss it, it's over. If Eagle is 70 feet off of the pin, it doesn't matter. If he's parked next to it, it doesn't matter. Nothing changes.
I get the context and I agree that that's important, but with that, I would, hit you back with the context of Eagle's shot, and it might not matter to you or most people right now because yes, Conrad made that shot, but the fact that a player currently who is 24 years old, I
I
believe,
think he's my age.
on the Pro Tour, 22 or 23 or something like that, he threw a shot that was, how much was it? 750?
It was like 7. No, it was closer to 7 than 750.
750. Let's say 750.
No, it was not 750. It was like 700. I'm saying it's closer to 700 than to 750. Yeah.
705, whatever. 700-foot shot and parked it. A 20-some early, a young 22, 23-year-old threw a 700 shot and parked it. And I feel like the importance of that kind of tells you where the sport is going. That, he is a young player, but when he's on it, he is unbeatable. Like, he is such a good player, but there's other players who can keep up with him who are also young. Kyle Klein, Calvin Heimberg, other young players. And I think it's an important shot because it tells people there is a new era of disc golf. There is a new guard. The Paul McBeth, Ricky Wasaki's, yes, they're still keeping up, but I think there's a new generation of players. I think one of the only people that could do that shot is maybe Garrett Gurthie. And, if Paul McBeth and Ricky absolutely ripped it and if you gave them 10 shots, they might be able to do it 1 out of 10, maybe. But I think Eagle does it. He actually did a full run up on that shot. He's been slowing down and doing a lot less run up on his shots because he has so much power. On that one, he did, people call it like a James Conrad run up because he actually did a little run up and got some speed behind him. And with doing that, he was able to go 700. And I think it's so important to take note of what that means, that there's a new level of players. And I think that's why, in my eyes, that shot was a lot more important and it was a much better shot than James Conrad. James Conrad's shot was amazing. And, it made it on ESPN and people were excited at that moment. And if he had missed, nobody would have cared because they would have expected Paul McBeth to win. It was amazing because he beat Paul McBeth, who was going to win anyways. And that's part of the reason why that shot was amazing, because it broke that, not the legacy, but it broke that glass that people expected. I think part of the reason why I added to that shot.
Yeah. I think if you throw the top 10 players in the world and you give them 10 shots to replicate each one, I think there is a significantly higher probability that Eagle's shot is replicated, because I at the end of the day, I'm going to harp on it, and I'm going to say
James Conrad make his again?
Exactly.
If you gave him 10 shots?
Exactly. That's what makes it the shot of the year, because you can't do it again. You can't replicate that.
But I think there's got to be some there's got to be some point where like luck is, it kind of takes away from like a good shot being a good shot. Being able to replicate it, like being able to make that shot, or people not being able to replicate it, because most people won't be able to replicate Eagle's shot because it's difficult.
Like, it's lucky. Both shots are lucky. He hit everything just perfect. Yes, to a certain degree, that's skill. You can say the same thing for James, right? He hit everything just perfect. They both hit everything just perfect. One of them is 700 feet. One of them is 250 feet. One of them goes in the basket. The other one does not. One of them is for a silly little match play tournament that was ran poorly. I like match play, but it was ran poorly. That doesn't matter because he was going to win that hole anyways. The other one is to force a playoff in the World Championship. Like, I just think that the context overweighs anything else here, and that it's like if you gave every single pro one shot in the exact same opportunity as for both situations, I think that there's a higher likelihood Eagle's shot would be replicated than James.
I guess, yeah, this just goes back to, we kind of see aces a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And it goes back towards, I would rather make an ace that I have been close to making than make an ace out of pure luck. Either hitting a tree or the wind just kicked it and it goes in. I would take the ace that I intended to hit, and I hit my line perfectly, and it went, I was running it for the ace and it went in. I would take that shot over the lucky accidental shot any day, because that doesn't mean that much. Yes, you have the context of James Conrad, but his shot had a lot more luck to it. And I don't know.
But I think even if I grant you there's a luck factor, it just goes back to what I just said, that both shots are lucky to a certain degree. The wind picks up just ever so slightly for either guy, and we're having a completely different discussion. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things where you look at the greatest plays of all time, in whatever sport you want to, there is probably some degree of luck involved, but there's still skill there. So I don't think it comes down to a luck versus skill thing, because, to win, like literally the Kansas City Chiefs, when they won their Super Bowl, there was absolutely some luck. Literally Patrick Mahomes threw up a prayer and it was answered by Tyreek Hill on the Wasp. Like, that is skill, yes, because he got it there, but also luck. So it's skill that James was able to pull it off, but also luck that it went in, right? It just happened to go in, but still skill. Luck that it was able to roll up. What happens if he throws that shot and it hits the hill wrong and it rolls back 75 feet? No one cares.
We wouldn't be talking about it. So if James Conrad had missed, we wouldn't be talking.
No one would care. Exactly. So I think then at the end of the day, for me, again, last time I'll say it, it goes back to the context. One is for the World Championship. One is for absolutely nothing. As well as, to me, I think something going into chains is so much better than just parking something, right? So we are the chain clankers. So when I see them chains being clanked, I'm going to go that direction. And that shot did so much more for the sport than Eagle's shot. You can argue that is the best tee shot of the year. Sure, whatever. I'll give you that. But shot of the year, I just don't think so. I mean, you and I, at least I was on here during that World Championship review saying this is the greatest shot of all time. And now it changes because a guy threw 700 feet. I guarantee in 10 years from now, there's going to be cats out there throwing 700 feet. It just does not, you know what I'm saying? Like, the evolution of the game is getting to that. The more ball golf courses we play on, the further you have to lengthen out your arm and ability to throw in order to keep up and to win, where I don't think you're going to see another game-saving moment in the World Championship like that.
Hopefully we do.
Who knows how long?
I'm sure there's other shots that we have no idea about, from people who've been playing for a long time that we even know about. But yeah, let us know what you guys think, if you guys agree with me or Quentin on this one. This is just for fun. Thank you guys for submitting some of these questions, some of these topics. We really enjoy these. It gets conversations. Both of us, think about stuff from different sides. If you guys enjoyed it, please let us know. And with that, hopefully you guys have a great weekend, and thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers, and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.